we followed the trials and tribulations of the Sussexes very closely here on the Royal Report. Whether it was dishing the dirt on the royals in public or the drama at Centre Ballet, the faux royal tours or the on-again, off-again documentary series and podcasts, we've covered it all. But there was always one connection which survived that turbulence, and that was Harry's relationship with the York sisters, and in particular Princess Eugenie. Then this happened.
The reports are that he is lonelier than ever in Montecito. He has no friends. He has zero relationship with his family. We just read that he cut off Eugenie, Princess Eugenie. And so what is he going to do with all this unstructured time?
Hang on, I'm glad you mentioned that.
On how many ways his life has gone wrong.
Well, that was because of me, actually, the Eugenie thing, because she was having lunch with me and a group of people in a pub in London, and I was seen hugging them goodbye, and Harry saw this and went completely ballistic. I can confirm, breaking news, that is entirely true. Joining me now is writer and broadcaster Esther Krakue. Esther, is there more than immediately meets the eye?
Well, yes, that little tidbit from Piers is actually quite accurate. But it's important to remember this happened in sort of the winter of 2023. So I'm not sure to what extent, one, Harry has held a grudge, and to what extent the relationship has remained frosty up until this point. We know that the couple, the Sussexes, bought a place in Portugal, which was meant to serve as sort of the European base if they ever wanted to dish in out of Europe and then have a little bit of alone time. They've kind of joined this flurry of celebrities that are buying up properties in really key locations in Portugal because of the tax incentives. And we know that one of the big draws for that was the fact that Eugenie and her family had a place out there. But it wouldn't surprise me in the least if Harry did lose his mind, that Eugenie didn't stab Piers Morgan in the eyes with forks upon seeing him, just to avenge her cousin, which kind of just shows really how immature he's become. It's incredible. He's kind of reversed in maturity, and how fragile actually a lot of his relationships with his family are, because you can imagine if someone like Eugenie, who's been quite an ally to him, she was, if not the only royal to actually go out to Montecito to visit the family. We know that she's had a warmer relationship with Meghan than basically the rest of the family, and certainly Will and Kate, that this is quite indicative of Harry's state of mind and really where he is with his family. And what Maureen mentioned in that video, which is pretty spot on, is it's really hard to imagine how truly happy he is. He doesn't really have the same base that he has. I mean, I know Montecito is beautiful, but when you don't have friends and family around you, it can feel quite empty. If all your company is basically your mother-in-law, your wife, who's busy doing sort of her boss babe life, and your two children who are, you know, can barely speak, really. They're not adults you can converse with. It can be a pretty lonely existence. And this was someone who was a prince. He was in the army. He was used to that camaraderie and having really a sense of direction at all times and knowing exactly what to do. And he's kind of had to juxtapose that previous life onto what he has now. And it can't help but feel quite empty. And I'm sure this certainly doesn't help that.
And going on from that, the observation has been made by others this week that Harry's obsession with being a spare is starting to affect those other relationships. Given recent events, do you think there's anything in this?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that has clearly plagued him his entire life, this really weird status of being the spare until Will settled down and had children, which of course he did, and him trying to find himself and him feeling the need, almost the rush to have a family of his own and a center of gravity and a sense of purpose. And you can tell that from his book Spare, where he basically just sounded like a belligerent child. And so it's become quite awkward, because now you can see that he sees everything through that lens. His how he grieved he was about his family when King Charles said, you know, he can't really afford him and Meghan, how he felt like they weren't really kind of put in the spotlight or treated the way that they should have been. It's this psychological inferiority complex where he's always felt like he's being treated as a backup. And now that he's kind of split from that and come center stage in his own way and effectively cut off many people in the process, you can see how that still plagues him day to day. I mean, this is someone who's had quite an abnormal reaction to a lot of things. And I think it stems from his own inferiority complex. And I'm not saying that the royal family or being in that institution is perfect. Of course, it comes with its own antiquated norms, an interesting way of doing things. And the average person certainly couldn't understand it. And the average person could actually sympathize with someone wanting to get out of that fishbowl. But clearly his issues run deeper than just how his perceived slights or how he perceived he was mistreated alongside his wife.
Speaking of his wife, this week Meghan launched her As Ever product range. As you can imagine, there are unboxing videos popping up all over the internet. Esther, it's finally happening. What's the reaction been?
So there has been some speculation that have had team engaged in a typical marketing technique where they limit the supply initially of the launch. So, you know, if 10 people buy, oh, we're sold out, even though 10 people bought expensive jars of preserve and crepe batter, which are quite easy to make at home at a cost. The marketing around it has clearly tried to target that, trying but not really trying to have that easy, effortless lifestyle is kind of targeted a top of market audience, really not being the cheapest around. It's actually quite pricey. He's kind of going for this Gwyneth Paltrow meets Lionel Richie's daughter, whose name escapes me, kind of vibe, this nouveau riche sort of thing. But I don't think it's going to work, and mainly because in any sort of lifestyle related brand that you're getting involved in, relatability is very important. People like Martha Stewart and even Gwyneth Paltrow, for her cringe and her excesses and her vagina scented candles, they connect with people. There's a level of authenticity even if people don't necessarily agree with them. Meghan is just veneer upon veneer of this polished image that is really hard to connect with. I mean, on one hand, she says, you know, she grew up eating microwave meals, but now she cooks for Archie and Libet. But oh, actually, no, she makes them grilled cheese sandwiches, and it's one of those things that takes an ordinary moment to extraordinary. And she just uses phrases and sentences that seem really detached from reality. No one really speaks like that. She doesn't really connect with people in a way that's very important if you're going to try and create a lifestyle brand and be relatable and get people to flog your products so you can get people to buy them. It's really not one of those things that works. And it's not surprising. Basically, every single project this couple has had has flopped. You know, she's saying that Netflix decided to release season 2. I'm sure they just all filmed it in one bulk and they're trying to wrap up things with this couple and then let them go, because certainly they didn't spend their $100 million very well when they decided to invest in this couple. So I suspect her brand, as ever, is going to tank with the rest of the other things that the couple have tried to do, because they're really missing a trick. And really, the PR machine of the royal family is second to none, because it made that couple, for the short time that they were in the royal family, seem lovable.
Now, speaking of that Netflix series, we do understand it's going to season 2. We know that it's not filmed in her own kitchen, but she has since allowed a food writer into her kitchen. What's going on here? Why didn't she just film the original series in her house? I've got about 30 seconds left.
Yeah, so this is quite common to do, actually. We know that famously the Kardashians don't film for Keeping Up with the Kardashians in their home. It was for security concerns. So when she did have Julia Moskin go and see her cook and, you know, prove that she can actually find her way around a kitchen, she had a strict no phones rule, no images, nothing like that. It's unsurprising that she did that. But again, how relatable is someone living in an 11-bedroom mansion in Montecito worth about $14 million? God only knows.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your observations, as always, Esther Krakue.